Welcome back to the Red Path, everyone. We are here to discuss how to play the game for the next few weeks. Whilst we are in this bizarre existential crisis of using Index World Eaters, 9th edition Chaos Space Marines Codex, and Arks of Omen, approximately 1 month before we presumably get Codex World Eaters. And it's a very strange place to be. I myself have had 2 games now, well, actually 5 games, kind of using Arks, and I'm actually kind of hype about it. I don't know what you fellas' initial thoughts are, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to go over, we're going to kind of do a bit of an analysis on the secondaries we can currently use. We're going to talk about how the points changes affect us and how allies can work with us, for us, with the Arks of Omen detachment. So just to make it clear, this video is only good for about a month because we are talking about current World Eaters using the CSM book, not the Codex World Eaters, but secondaries, at least 2 of them, are legal for us. So yeah, gentlemen, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. Just riding those post-tournament blues after Nottingham. So
Yeah,
riding those.
Rather that. It's fun living in Limbo, which is where we are, I guess.
yeah,
Yep.
it is.
Me and Jamie are in an especially weird limbo in the
Oh, God,
pre-LVO build-up.
Yeah.
So get this, right? I'm practicing for LVO, but I'm also helping my two friends who play 40k with me. I'm helping them prep for a tournament which is the same weekend as LVO in Cork, which is using almost Arks of Omen. So it's points, new points, new balance status slate, but no mission pack.
No.
Yeah,
That's
I
just
know.
what I did. That's basically.
Right.
Yeah,
But
point data slate and the Arks detachment, but you could also use Nephilim detachment, but it was Nephilim missions.
yeah.
I know. It was fun. Like,
I think the Arks. No, wait, the Arks detachment isn't legal. Yeah, it's points and data slate stuff. So we were there last weekend, and I was playing my mate's Blood Angels, and so he had brought a Blood Angels list written with the new points in mind. So there was about 400 points there that weren't there before, won't be there in the LVO. And I was running my LVO list, which was also technically overpointed because Terminators had gone up for him, but not for me.
25
so then we
points.
started into turn 1, and we got to the shooting phase, and some wounds went through, and we both looked at each other and we said, "Are we playing Armor of Contempt?" So I hate it so much. I hate this stupid Limbo. It's really annoying. But that's where I'm at anyway.
I guess you guys are more, as you say, more in Limbo because you want to play the Arks of Omen stuff, and Jamie has played the Arks of Omen stuff at a tournament, but he now has another tournament, not for a couple of weeks, that isn't running that. So yeah,
I'm going to be forgetting that I have Armor of Contempt at LVO.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
That's I mean, that's part of the reason I've like
that's a rough one.
Nottingham, and now I'm off tournaments until like mid-February now because I'm just not interested in this bullshit.
We are in a difficult state right now, but I will say this: Arks, losing Armor of Contempt does suck. Like, there's no 2 ways about it. But Arks itself is a really fun way. Like, my list building, I'm back on the list building, like messing around in Battlescribe. I've come up with like 5 or 6 different, quite different lists since I've been really thinking about it. I actually really like the Arks detachment. I know there's going to be some stupid bullshit out there eventually, but I do like the variation it allows us now. I think it does bring a lot to the table, and I'm sure there's some conspiracy theory where it's GW allowing us to bring all the toys, blah blah blah, whatever. I'm actually really enjoying Arks, and even in our weird state. And that's kind of why we're doing this video, because I think there's some fun to be had. So why don't we jump into talking about the secondaries? And like I thought, you two guys, we'll start with you, Jack, and then Dara. When we've obviously had a few weeks now to kind of digest the secondaries from where we got the leaks to now basically the official thoughts on them. Let's talk about Blood for the Blood God first. And Blood for the Blood God, for anyone who doesn't know, it's World Eaters units only. You cannot fall back in the round. You get 2 victory points for killing a monster vehicle or character in combat, in melee. You get 1 for killing anything else, so infantry, beast, swarm, that sort of stuff. And you can max out at 4 victory points per battle round. So if you kill it in your turn or your opponent's turn, the same thing, you still max at 4. What are your initial thoughts on that, Jack? Or, digested thoughts, I guess, is what we're actually looking for.
So I really like it. I like it. It's really simple, and it rewards you for just playing the game like you want to. And it's part of the reason that basically I obviously got quite a few questions at my tournament this weekend about, are you looking forward to new World Eaters? And yes, I am, because the play style.
Looking forward to the World Eaters.
What do you think about the combat?
What do you think?
I got
going to bring card.
I got what do you think about the combat patrol a lot.
For fuck's sake.
We're already getting sidetracked, Dara. I really like it because I think the whole picture that we're getting, of which Blood for the Blood God is part of it, and a big part of it for me, is that the army's going to be really fun to play, regardless of how strong it is. And this does look quite strong, because we want to get into melee. It looks like we're not going to do that much shooting unless we have allies, which we'll get to later. But we're not going to do that much shooting, so we're going to be killing stuff in melee anyway. That's going to be what we do to win games. And it incentivizes like an MSU trading game, right? Which, that's my jam. I love that. So yeah, I'm loving it.
Dara, what do you think about Blood for the Blood God?
I respectfully disagree with the doctor. I like in general, I really dislike the 3 World Eater secondaries. I would actually go so far as to say I potentially hate them. I think they're really badly designed, like incredibly poorly designed, and they're gonna be kind of boring after maybe our first like 5 or 6 games, I think. So I just think they're all way too easy. They're probably as easy as the Necron secondaries in a lot of the cases. Like one of them is literally the sister secondary for like trade-in miracle dice.
We're not talking about that.
I know we're not talking about it, right? Yeah. But it's the same. It's the same concept in terms of like this costs us nothing essentially. Yeah. We don't know that it costs us nothing, but like it's a whatever. Yeah. But yeah, in terms of this, like where it's like, all right, get points killing stuff, right? That's like fine, but as like a design philosophy, I think it's really not that fine, because like getting points for playing the game is all well and good, but like you want your secondary objectives to kind of be like this side quest that you're going on. Like things like Raise the Banners when it first came out, I was like, oh, that's so sick. It's like I've got to do something other than just kill my enemy to try and, it's like the Dawn of War philosophy, like raising the flags on the objectives. It's awesome. And stuff like doing actions on objectives, I really like that, because it's like you have to think about it, you have to tech into it and stuff like that. Or like the Long War, right, as an example, is like you have to kill things, but you have to kill them in specific areas at specific times. I know the Long War isn't scored very well, but the design of that objective is really good, I think. This is just like kill things, get points, which I'm like, it's not particularly interesting to me, because I'm doing that anyway. I like being given a kind of thing of like, yeah, kill this stuff, but try and do it in like in this kind of a way to achieve your points. Like there's not really any not that there's no challenge to it, but it's like I was doing that thing anyway, so I'm not really a crazy big fan of those type of things. I do think, like Jack says, it encourages the MSU trading game, which is actually pretty good. Like I like that game type as well. But I just think it's kind of like you're just going to rack up points in the background and be like, oh, cool, I'm sorry, but I've scored loads of points.
I do have some counterpoints. Specifically the Necron analogy. I take offense. Basically, ours are a lot more interactive.
Yeah, they are more interactive.
They aren't even if they are powerful, they aren't feel as bad. And I've said this all along about melee armies, is at least if you're doing well, they're also killing you, like most of the time.
Yeah.
Which
and
because we're not looking to have
they're decentivized to kill you now because of one of our secondaries.
Yeah, but then it's like
there's ways around that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I just think that they're just too easy for this one in particular. It's like, but it's really hard to actually design secondaries for the world leaders, because it's like, if you think about it thematically or narratively, it's like, well, what do they do other than kill? You know, they don't do anything else. So it's kind of like, it makes sense, I guess. But
the thing is, I mean, I do understand, and I do, because it is a very good secondary. It is us just doing what we want to do anyway. My thoughts are, up until these secondaries, we've been having to play the game in a way that isn't generally beneficial to us. The long war's not bad, but it is okay. If you score 9 on it, that's actually a pretty good accomplishment. Banners is obviously generally, or R&D, are going to be a pick for most games. Pull the Witch if you're lucky enough to, get it. But generally, our secondary choices have been so limited. Oh, okay, no prisoners. Okay, I can kill stuff. Your opponent then just says, okay, I'm just going to hold back all my stuff that's going to cost you 15 VP. So now we can get points. It pairs up nicely with no prisoners. Yes, okay, it can be a bit of a runaway train, but it does cap at 4 per round. We can't fall back, which is important, and it is only World Eaters units. So and it is only 1 for killing. Like, you kill a 10 blob of Terminators with your last Berserker, you're only getting 1 point for that. So
yeah, but it's like you said, it stacks with no prisoners, and there is that one mission where you just get points for killing enemies as well, as like that's the tertiary. In those situations, it can really kind of stack in your favor, and like they've gone a long way to like remove stacking primaries and tertiaries and secondaries, the way they had with like knights and stuff before.
We're gonna get nerfed.
We are. Yeah. So, I'm not particularly like, oh, this is the worst thing ever, but I just think as like a design standpoint, like I myself, the player, I'm happy because I will rock up to the table and I will say, okay, before we even begin this game, I'm kind of guaranteed a set number of secondary points, which we haven't been before. But I like secondaries to be this kind of thing that you have to try and work to achieve in the background, rather than the primary, which is a little bit more not like automatic, but kind of like the main focus. Secondaries to me should be kind of something that you have to like dedicate time and resource to, rather than something that just kind of like racks up in the background as well. And I know it's not quite that simple, but like as a design thing, I'm not the biggest fan of these.
I would also say that I think melee generally is inherently worse than ranged, because there's far less risk for ranged. And so the way which they might be going with these is to balance melee armies to make them stronger, give them better secondaries that incentivize getting into melee. And that might be what this is.
Which is true until they look at the Blood Angels one and they've taken away their really good secondaries.
Well,
so it's just like
but Blood Angels have access to all the Space Marine stuff as well, right? So they can they have like Oath of Moment, which is really strong again now because it's gone back to what it was at the start. Codex Warfare is now good because you can pick doctrines when you want to. The other one, Shock Tactics, is just better Long War still, I think.
Is it still better Long War, or has Long War kind of
so Long War's capped at 4, but you have to do more things to get to 4.
I guess that's cool.
Whereas Codex Shock Tactics, or whatever it's called, is literally just flip an objective, you get 4 points. So I'd argue that Blood Angels, and also aside from secondaries, Blood Angels also have access to all the other marine stuff like Inceptors and shoot. Pointed, but like they have access to all the shooting basically that we are looking not to. So we need secondaries.
They can bring Psychic as well.
And they can bring Psychic as well. So they have far more options already. So I think funneling power into some very specific, very dedicated melee.
They can bring Botan as well.
They can also bring Botan patrols now, but they
you know what I would have liked to see instead of this secondary. I don't know if you guys are familiar with there's a Tyranid secondary.
Cranial
I don't know
feasting.
if it's still like I would have really liked that for the World Leaders, because
Skulls for the Skull Throne. That's what Skulls for the Skull Throne should have been. I've said it for fucking ages.
They get points every time they kill squad sergeants.
Yeah, unit champions or characters, and you get.
But they have to do it in combat.
Yeah, you have
to. And when they kill specific things, so characters are worth more.
You get 3, I think, for
certain characters you get command points as well. And the warlord is worth like the most of all. It's such a cool secondary. I wish we had that.
So good as Skulls for the Skull Throne.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, would have been perfect.
All right. Well, let's move on to our other valid secondary right now, because obviously we can't take Pile the Skulls because we don't have our Blood Tithe rules, but we can take the Blood Gods Do. Now, Blood Gods Do is an interesting one. It's quite complex, but I really like it because there is some interesting jank that can be achieved. And if you know me, you know I love my janky shit. So this one is any unit in the game. Your units, your World Eaters, your allies if you bring them, your opponent's units. Any unit on one objective. So if you've got 20 units on one objective, only one of them will generate you a point here. But one unit, if it dies on that objective in the, I think it's in the round, per turn, you get a point for it. So you can score multiple points in your turn, and technically, or in your opponent's turn, and technically in your own turn, if there's ways to kill your own units in your turn. And the unit has to start on an objective. So, initial thoughts, gentlemen.
So just to clarify, it's any units either side of the table. Dies on any objective in either player turn, you get a point. So if it dies on the objective, yeah. So my initial thought was, okay, this is busted auto 15. There is definitely counterplay. Equally, there is like counterplay, as you've described some jank. I think there's probably going to be an FAQ about like starting on an objective. That wording. There's list building we can do to tailor to it, like so individual spawn that are really fucking easy to kill, and then it's about trading like 1 point on that versus 4 points on primary. Like if you're not going to kill us off it, I guess we just get primary then. I also think it pairs very nicely with banners.
Oh, sorry. Let me add in. It does exclude vehicle units.
Yes, so it is bloods. Yeah, living things, I guess. Yeah. But it pairs very nicely with banners. Because I think you march onto an objective, put up a banner, come take me off it then, I guess. I get points if you take down my banner anyway, so.
Yeah.
I'm sensing Dara also does not like this secondary, though. Judging by his facial expression.
I mean, this one's worse, right? It's, like you said, it's busted out of 15.
It is not.
I'm not sure it is. No? I think that's counterplay. Yeah.
Well, I guess it depends. If you play knights, it's not out of 15.
It's very easy to counter. You take this game 1 and game 2, an RTT. Obviously, unless you're playing knights or something, you don't take it against an opponent generally if they really are familiar with it. Once people work out this secondary, it's going to lose its stocks. Because it's your opponent just underkills your units, or they don't start their units on objectives, things like that. There's lots of ways to prevent you, and also like if you kill my spawn on an objective, you're going to then focus everything on everything else that's on that objective. You know what I mean? Because I'm only scoring it once, so a good player will know how to. You're going to score some points on it, but I don't think you're going to get 15 on it in every game by any means. I think it's like a long war, but more consistent on the low and mid tables and lower on the high tables, in my opinion.
I'd argue that there's probably, as you said, like at that point you don't want to like stack objectives, and then certain armies will be able to still counterplay that because they just tow on enough models to take it off you without actually killing the stuff on the objective. But then, like, they're in charge range, right? So, and then you kill them off the objective, so you get the point in your turn instead. Which, like, it might. So yeah, as you say, it will slow down scoring at top tables. But I think I'm not sure. I think the fact that it's shooting and melee is really strong, and the fact that it's each player turn is really strong.
Model or unit destroyed.
Yeah.
So if they fail their morale check, if they are killed by Khorne's 2 mortal wounds, if they emergency disembark, if they do the fallback and fail to fall back,
desperate breakout.
You need to get off this obsession with killing your own army.
Yeah, you really do.
Love it.
So
that's what
I mean. It's funny. Like, it's funny.
Yeah.
So
some missions, it's just gonna suck so much for your opponent. Like Data Scry Salvage, cool. You can't play the game.
Yeah.
If you do, you lose. Data Scry, where it's like you have to come entirely into the middle of the board and flip objectives every turn. Like, that was like golden for the Long War back in the day. So it's even better for this.
So think about this, right? You throw your single spawn up to an objective. Your opponent, instead of killing that spawn, they just advance OBSEC on there. They don't kill the spawn. They don't need to, because now they've got OBSEC on there. So,
but I guess then the mistake is on you to just put a single spawn there in the first place.
No, but because then for me, I think that is the play, because it invites them forwards onto objectives, and then you counter charge with your actual killer units and kill them off it, get a point, and then
so
if they counter
points in your own turn anyway.
So that's
like, I guess it's like, okay, it's probably hard to like auto 15 it, right? But like, I find it hard to see how you don't get 10 minimum in most games. Like, it's like, on the one hand though, I'm also like, I'm so tired of people when they're tabling me in a tournament being like, "Oh, Khorne cares not for where the blood flows." And it's just like, all right, man, that's real funny. Let's see how it feels when I say it, when I'm getting points for you killing my guys now. But like, I just think it's like not even that it's like, insanely busted or whatever. I think it's incredibly strong. Probably a little bit busted, but like, it's real feel bads for your opponent. I think that's kind of my problem with it, right? Like, your opponent is like disincentivized to actually like play the game kind of in like a, not like, play the game at all, but like, they have to really work for the primary, potentially the tertiary, while it makes like that side of it easier for you. And then you also have the secondary aspect that's racking up a load of points. I just think like, you're going to play people who are like, man, like, Defend the Shrine for Sisters. It's going to be that kind of like feeling where you're just like, it's not the same objective, but where you're just sitting there being like, man, this sucks. Like,
so yes, here's the issue though, right? Whilst I agree with, all 3 of these secondaries are very strong in many situations.
We don't know about Pile.
We don't know about Pile, but in my opinion, it's probably able to get 15 fairly easily if you're only taking 1 or 2 buffs. So, Jack, here's where you get to clip me, okay? So, I made the bold hot take statement in our Discord chat that, in my opinion, once we have our full codex or access to Pile the Skulls, we should be able to get 72 points minimum in every game, unless, horrendously tabled turn 1, okay? Reason for that is you just go for 8 on your primary every round. Then you max out Pile the Skulls for 15. You get 10 for Painted. You should be able to get 15 for Blood for the Blood God, which 32, 62, 72. And that's before you score any Blood Gods do points, which you'll probably get some as well. And mission tertiaries and things like that.
So, like, that's kind of my point. Is that not a bad thing?
That's why I'm saying this now, okay? The reason I say that, you're playing uninteractively, okay? That's just feeding a unit, getting a kill here and there. You're not doing much with your army.
Right.
So, Space Marines, right, with their 3 decent secondaries now, if you're just playing for the 72, they're playing for closer to 100, right? Because they're going to max their 45 on primary and tertiary between them, because they will hold more of the table because you're seeding. So yes, we have a baseline of 72, but it's a 72 loss if you don't play the game and risk, because they can do shit to just come around, they can steamroll one flank or whatever. So we're not Sisters where we can castle up on one objective and then round 5 spread out and score 30 points in the last turn, or Necrons where it's just scarabs everywhere. I've won the game. I don't think, because we lack range, because we lack psychic, and we are going to be quite elite. Like, our 8 bound, whilst good, are still only 3 models at probably T5 with a 2 up or a 3 up save. They're not tanking huge amounts of damage.
No.
So if we die quick enough, if your opponent comes out aggressively and really hammers us in 2 rounds, we're not scoring Blood Gods Do or Pile the Skulls for 3 rounds. So I think we can be countered even with our apparent 72 baseline, in my opinion. So
but
that was a bit of a rant.
Yeah. So I think I mean the very fact that we're having this discussion, right, suggests that it like there are counters to everything, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to make for some interesting games. And obviously we don't have the full picture, so we can't work out everything. I also do want to say, because I forgot at one point, but I am remembering now, the Sisters secondary for spending Miracle Dice, they just spend it and get the score passively, whereas we actively have to spend it and not spend it on other stuff. So I think it is slightly different as well, and slightly more a conscious choice. It is very uninteractive, obviously, because it's not something your opponent can really affect, and in fact, they will contribute towards it if we get blood type points for our units dying. But I think
just, again that like doubles up. Like if you get points when your units die in an objective, and then that gives you blood tide points. And one thing actually about, I know we can't really speculate about whatever it's called,
Pile the Skulls.
Yeah. It seems to score really high for cashing in not that many blood tide points.
Yeah.
Like really high.
Especially because like most armies nowadays, like most of my lists have had like 13, 14 units in them. And so like you mirror that, that's 30 units on the board almost. Is that 30 blood type points if everything dies?
Yeah, like we've heard rumors that Angron is like what, 3 points if he dies. I'm like, yeah, cool. He's definitely staying dead if that's getting me that many victory points. Like, see you later.
That's like, that's. I think there's also going to be min-maxing on all of these secondaries. Like Pile the Skulls, I feel like you probably only want to cash in 2 a turn before a turn.
I think the min-maxing thing is pretty interesting or whatever. Like the getting to the upper echelons of the score is probably where the skill comes in. I just think it's going to be okay, this is going to be a really dramatic example.
Oh my god!
really dramatic. But hear me out, okay? So when Codex Space Marines 2 came out in 8th edition, right? There was a really good episode of whatever the data collection statistical thing is with the Falcon at the time, and they were talking about the average Iron Hands player's win rate, and how like the average player who went from going like 2-3 at a tournament was going 4-1, like from the buff there. And I don't think it's going to be as dramatic a jump for World Eaters. I don't think so. But there's going to be such a significant jump without an increase in player skill, simply because the game just gives you points.
Gets easier, yeah.
Yeah, like it gets so much, but and like it's greatly exaggerated by the fact that the secondaries that we had were really bad.
Yeah.
Like if we had average secondaries, then this transition wouldn't be as like dramatic. But we're going from like below average secondaries, like probably one of the worst set of secondaries in the game, in Nephilim, to having maybe the best set of secondaries. Like it's really hard to say now for sure, but like reading through how some people's secondaries got nerfed, like Necrons and Sisters and stuff like that, ours are kind of like pretty tapped. And I like, not to be a downer or anything, but I am a little bit concerned and worried about it, that like this will be a gateway drug for meta chasers who want to just hop in and be like, well, that's very easy. I'm reasonably good at the game, and this army can just passively score me a load of points if I have like a brainstem, you know. And then obviously people who are really good will be able to, like I say, push the upper echelons, like you guys are saying, you know, push it past the 72 or 74, like really push it to the high level. But I just don't like. I want the army to not be like super easy to play, if that makes sense. Like, which is like stupid, right? Like, but at the same time, it's, I don't know. For me, it's a little bit too passive, I think.
Yeah, I still having seen these and digest them a bit, don't think we're going to be absolute top tier.
No, I don't think we'll be like S tier.
Which means I think we may dodge meta chasers. We'll get. I think what we'll get is that like inflated win rate that is perhaps not reflective of an increase in player skill that you were talking about. Because I think stuff like Guard also has very easy secondaries and is also tapped to sell. Votan are obviously still quite strong, and people are still working that codex out, I feel. There's a lot of shooty lists around and going to be around that I feel like will hard counter us. So I think you're concerned about that the increase in this is what I said, that I feel like between the old book and the new book, the skill ceiling and skill floor sort of went like that into Chaos Space Marine's index, and I feel like maybe with the new book the floor will come up a bit more. I'm not sure how much the ceiling will rise again.
It's impossible to say. It's impossible to say, but I just think one kind of like knock-on effect that's a little bit I guess unfortunate or whatever is that, like, we'll say, having played the codexes that we've had up until now, that like maybe they weren't necessarily the best thing to show off how good the people who were good with the army was. Like we'll say, like, the three of us who are all pretty good competitive players, like if you gave us, we'll say, something like Votan or like New Imperial Guard or something, we'd probably do pretty good. And now I'm just like, I would have really liked to see how we could have worked out this book without like the cushion of really easy secondaries, like I'd love to play this book without taking those secondaries and be like, oh, let's see how easy or hard, like, because it's like I say, it's a cushion, right? Like how good is the book? Do we really know, or are we just leaning on the fact that the secondaries are very good, which is also worrying for nerfs down the road?
We might get that experience, right?
Because they might be like, we're going to nerf the shit out of you based on your secondaries, but we're not going to nerf the secondaries.
Situation. We'll have to learn a new way to play, which, as long as they don't take us down to this level or our current like Long War Skulls level, everyone, all the meta chasers will jump off, which, that doesn't bother me either way. We're going to stick it out with World Eaters, and we'll just learn to do well as we can with them. And, we'll have new codexes. All the new books that come out are probably going to have strong secondaries, if not, hopefully not broken, but comparable to ours. Maybe everyone's going to have a 70-point baseline for their scoring. Who knows? But I don't know. It's a lot of speculation, but with the current Arks of Omen with CSM 9th Ed, there is stuff we can do.
Yes.
There is jank. There is we can actually compete now, I think, with access to the 2 secondaries we have. And
I mean, let's not forget about for the next couple of weeks at least, we still have access to the Chaos Space Marine secondaries, which have also been buffed. So Long War now caps out at 4, so you can kill multiple units on objectives, and it actually means something if you flip it as well. So that's 4 a turn. You don't need to get it every single turn to max it out now, which is good. Rise to Glory now happens in melee, and the points got buffed a bit. Now happens in shooting, sorry, as well, and the points got buffed a bit, so it makes discos a little bit better now with the flamers. Abaddon's shooting kills count. Cypher meta, calling it here. And like, what's the fuck's the other secondary that we have?
Well, okay, so here's a question.
For the Dark Gods, it's 6 inches, not 3 now, which is better.
If we take the CSM secondaries, we can't take the World Eater secondaries, right?
Where's that said?
Well, I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
Because all the other legions can take their legion-specific secondaries and the base CSM ones.
Technically, at the moment, we're the same as them.
Okay, all right.
I mean, I've got the book here. I can.
In this, that's like saying like a Blood Angels player can only take the Blood Angel secondary and not the Codex Space.
But I think them. Now you've said it, there might be some future proofing in place, so I'm just going to check.
Yeah. Okay. Well, while you're checking that, we'll get ready to transition into talking about points changes, which isn't a huge amount, but obviously Abaddon went up, Terminators went up, free war gear on Marines and Cultists. Those are really the ones that make much difference as far as I can tell. Obviously, AOC changed, or the loss of AOC changed the value of Possessed and Warp Talons especially. But yeah, so while Jack's looking, Dara, out of those 4 changes, unless there's any more I've forgotten, what do you think are having the biggest impact on your list writing or World Eaters list writing right now?
It's definitely the Terminators, right? Like that's how it is for everyone, which I like fundamentally disagree with. I think it was a terrible decision.
Yes.
Because like So in the MetaWatch video, they called it out. They were like, "We've identified that Chaos Space Marines have a problem with one specific subfaction, Creations of Bile, so we've nerfed it. But also we made Mark of Slaanesh more expensive, which is kind of fair because it's really strong.
Yeah.
So that should probably do it, right? But let's jack up the points cost for Terminators. Even though we know it's only one subfaction, that's the problem. We're going to make everyone suffer.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, guys. 33 points for a Terminator with a Storm Shield and Thunderhammer if you're a loyalist. Great. Yeah. Like, it's a really bad call. I'm really glad that I won't be playing Chaos Space Marines in like a month's time. Sucks if you do, I guess.
Yeah.
It's pretty rough. If that was the situation I was facing into, the simple decision or change I would be making: Terminators come out every single day of the week, and 10 Possessed go in with a Black Rune of Domination. Yeah. It's the simplest trade, and it's the trade we're probably going to see.
Depending on where you're going. But
exactly. Yeah.
You've got options at least.
Yeah. So that to me is the biggest change, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Jack, what about you?
So just we're all good on secondaries. I think just I can't see a specific World Eater thing. So we're all good. For me, I agree pretty much wholeheartedly with everything Doris said. I think Abaddon at 350 is still very good.
He's not auto take now.
He's not auto take.
He's probably there's a granule of consideration.
Yeah. I wouldn't say he was auto take nowadays. I think he fills a niche in terms of damage output that we otherwise don't really have access to. Yeah. So that's why I take him, and I don't think he's auto take because you can get similar results with like a tooled up Disco Lord. I just don't like Disco Lords because their base is fucking massive. But so. Yeah, as Dara said, Terminators are obviously the other big one. Like I don't think it was good, and I think the fact that we didn't get any points drops. We got free equipment on Legionaries, Cultists, and vehicles. We didn't get any real points drops, and we've lost 16% durability. And Armor of Contempt's been in since April, so like 9 months ish. So the Codex was probably written with Armor of Contempt sort of in mind, although the Iron Warriors trait suggests it wasn't. But there were rumblings of it when the Codex was being written. The fact that we haven't had any points drops for a 16% durability loss, whereas Loyalists had a 16% durability loss and now get 16% more wounds ish.
Yeah.
To compensate.
It bugs me because like. Even factoring in Bile and Emperor's Children, right? We were sitting at like a 52% win rate.
Yeah, I think Bile.
It felt so unnecessary, like so unnecessary. And I know it's not the end of the world. I think Chaos Space Marines have room to adapt and move past it. And I think people are going to start looking at Possessed with the Black Rune and being like, actually, you know what? That's tough 5 with -1 wound. Pretty tasty, pretty good.
Well, hold on, right? Do you remember before 9th edition? Right. In fact, before Psychic Awakening, did anyone bring Terminators? Realistically, competitively, until we got the Red Butcher's strat, no one took Terminators. Taking out World Eaters, did any CSM take Terminators up until 9th edition?
No one was playing CSM.
No. Well, no, but there were a few like Russell Tassin with There's a few names like Mike P was taking Emperor's Children out.
I think there was niche builds for Black Legion Terminators. Yeah, but that was it.
But that was really Psychic Awakening, I believe.
Yeah. And even then, you were like punishing yourself.
Yeah. So once 9th edition hit, all our Terminators, all Chaos Terminators were baseline good. Armor of Contempt, 2 up, 5 up, lots of DACA, efficiently priced but not broken. And there were just some interactions, like the Master of Possession can heal one back for the janky charge out of Deep Strike, blah, blah, blah. There's lots of things which made them very powerful. But yeah, they absolutely didn't need the points increase alongside Armor of Contempt. Yeah. They could have taken the points increase if they had included a caveat, whereas Terminator armor ignores AP1 now, or ignores the first AP for Chaos Space Marines because they're really old or something. But yeah, they didn't do it, and it sucks. But I think
it's going to disproportionately affect Chaos.
I think I think Chaos Space Marine win rate might tank a little bit.
I think it will initially, but I think it will recover. I think there's still a lot of tools in that book. You have to remember we're looking at it from the kind of goggles of the World Eater limitations, right? Yeah. There's still a lot of scope for
Legionaries are really good.
Like Black Rune of Damnation on Possessed, like I'm saying, it sounds great, but it sounds a whole lot better when those possessed have a 4+ invulnerable save from the Master of Possession, right?
Yeah. So I agree with that, and I would also say Warp Talons, I'd agree with Psychers when you can make them Strength 5. And also give them the 4 pinball, pretty nice.
And bikes, we've all talked about bikes. Yeah, and I know we're not going to touch on it too deeply, but like certain Lords of War in the Arks of Omen Red Corsairs detachment. So a Brass Scorpion being able to advance and then 3d6 charge is a good meme. And we're going to see it because a lot of its guns are assault.
That's not even a meme. That's just good.
It's just good. And like Bloodslaughters being 125 in Red Corsairs.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Like, because they auto advance. Yeah. I think they auto advance 6.
They do. Scuttling Gate or whatever.
Yeah. So like, there's something there.
Red Corsairs Demon Engine list. You heard it here first.
Yeah, and like free strategic reserves and all the other great Arks of Omen stuff.
There's lots of stuff. There's lots of stuff with Demon Engines and Lords of War, specifically the Scorpion and the Lord of Skulls.
Yeah.
With free strat reserves, gaining Legion traits, things like that.
The Khitan is also good now because it's 400 points and it really benefits from Armor of Contempt going away because it's AP2 damage 2. That thing is made to pick up Marines. You bring him in from strategic reserve, he's hosing. He's doing really good. And like I think it's Word Bearers can really buff up their Demon Engines. There's some good stuff there, I think. I don't know. I think CSM has a lot of promise.
My list right now, my Arks of Omen World Eaters 9th edition CSM list has a Lord of Skulls in it, and I really like it. Played a couple games with them. I would switch to a Khitan immediately if I had the legs, like the Khitan legs. I would, because and
easier to reserve it, right?
Yeah.
No, the reserve is the same because
the Lord of Skulls you have to put sideways though, right?
Yeah. But
because
more importantly, you're saving 175 points, and all you're realistically losing is one gun.
I think his combat output is better now. They used to be the same, but the Khitan is worse after the Chaos Space Marine book came out.
Oh,
because they buffed
and his
him a lot.
Survivability is worse because the Kalos is a 2-up, doesn't he?
Yeah,
But the point is the saving 175 points and still getting a very good damage output on a tough chassis is definitely good because of strat reserves. And I don't really need all the shooting. Like the second gun on the Lord of Skulls is fine, but it's not like broken. It's not something stupid. So I don't mind coming in with the Hades Gatling cannon, which is a hell of a lot. 12 shots.
It's heavy 12, strength 8, -2 damage. Minus 3 now, I think. It's -3.
Minus 3, yeah.
It got buffed.
Yeah, see, the Khitan is heavy 8, AP2.
Oh, okay, so it's the old one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's also called because it's the Khitan Gatling cannon, so it's not going to get. That's what I mean. It's just that little bit.
Yeah.
That little bit works. Yeah.
But it's still okay.
But like what I'm saying is, there's play, there's options for there's bikes and things that we haven't even touched on as well. I think in a way, taking away the Terminator crutch might be a great thing for innovation for Chaos Space Marine players because. Remember when the book first came out, we were all like, "Oh my god, everything's good. There's play for everything." Blah blah blah. Now people are going to step away from the thing that was really really good and be like, "Well, look, there are options elsewhere in this book."
So, I'd say if people are looking to be really uninventive with list changes, which is like people are used to playing certain ways, if you want to make incremental changes to your list in the next 2 weeks, if you have that many games planned. AP2 is obviously now pretty good again, so Possessed, as Dara said, if you just want to trade out your Terminator bomb for a Possessed bomb with Black Rune, 1 CP instead of 3, straight 5 AP2, 2 damage. Great at killing Runes. And you save what, 5 points model as well. 50, at least 5 points model plus the 15 for the mark. The other option, which we've touched on a bit there, is bikes. Because they are strength 5, AP2 with the icon, 1 damage, but a shit ton of attack. They are core, so you can put Lose Your Supplication on them still, and you can put Rune on the champion. So you can basically have a much faster Terminator brick that is toughness 5 and a 3-up save instead.
Oh, also, you can get 36 bolter shots.
Also, you can get loads of fucking bolters. You can get special weapons as well as chainswords. Yeah, and you can get special weapons alongside the chainswords that are slightly more expensive than Terminator combi weapons, but that's because you would still have a combi bolter and then you get the special weapon on top.
Yeah.
Rather than
we had that one day in our chat, the three of us, where we got like really crazy about like heavy bolter profile.
Yes.
Like rapier carriers.
Let's not say we did that. You two fucking ran away with that.
Yeah, but it was great. I was a contemptor with 4 heavy bolters.
But the point is, we with an icon, chainswords are AP2 with us, and that's really good. Like I've been like looking at legionaries because they're slightly cheaper than berserkers. They will have their output is actually comparable now, but they have a different tool set now because you can add a demon blade on the champion for free, which is more wounds, which we don't have that much access to. You add a heavy chain axe to the squad, which is a damage 2 weapon. Don't have that much access to that outside of possessed. Or venom crawlers, but I wouldn't invest in venom crawlers now because we're not keeping them because they're a caster demon engine. And then you can put a free special weapon, so like surprise exploding melter, for example.
Yeah,
and then like fucking plasma pistols,
legionaries.
So yeah, legionaries. If you kit them out with fucking chainswords and bolt pistols and a demon blade, they are berserkers because chain blades, bolt pistols, easy. So for longevity, it's fine. And they're also pretty good now because they are marginally cheaper than berserkers, than a bare bones berserker squad, and I think you probably get comparable output.
Well, you have to be more target specific.
Yes,
but because you get the 2 damage 2 weapon, or the demon blade, the heavy chain axe, and a melter. You're going for heavier targets. The berserkers are clearing out marines and chaff. Yeah.
But even your legionaries with AP2 chainswords can do a budget job at that, can't they?
Yeah.
And this is what I mean. Like Raptors, maybe not that bad again. Strength 5, AP1, 1 damage with a lot of attacks.
With access to AP2 as well.
So with access to AP2,
like what I'm gathering from everything there is like revisit the book, have a look through it again.
Look at AP1 and
everything with fresh eyes. You know.
There's stuff to learn.
With Terminator crutch.
Well, and like Predators with heavy bolters, really cheap now. Toughness 8.
Yeah,
I'm
good with Predators. I mean,
I know you.
Yeah, I haven't.
They're supposedly in our codex. So
they are supposedly in our codex. So.
Okay, so let's go into the last bit of the video, which is talking about allies currently. So obviously we can bring either a super heavy auxiliary for Chaos Knights, and we can bring a patrol of Khorne demons.
Yeah.
There's minor details in what you can bring in power level wise and stuff like that. We're not worried about that. Basically, who wants to talk about demons?
I can talk about demons a bit because I talked about demons a bit last time as well.
So give us the rundown on what the sort of like hot demon units to bring, which complement World Eaters currently.
Right. There are a couple of options. Obviously, as a patrol, you need bloodletters, like just for the troop stats, which is 1 squad of 10. That's not a bad thing. They deep strike. They're good shock infantry. They're strength 5, AP3, 2 damage, strength 4, AP3, 2 damage.
I wouldn't call them good shock infantry. They are shock infantry.
They're decent. But they're troops as well, right? Like they're shock infantry.
They're upset. Yeah. They can do actions. Yeah. They're decent.
And as attacks, they're not the worst thing we could have.
They're probably better backfield than cultists there.
Yeah. And then you've got flesh hounds, which obviously saw massive points drops. So 4 points a model, they went down from 19 to 15, meaning you can get 5 for 75 points. They have 3 attacks each. They are strength 5, AP2, 1 damage. That goes up to 2 damage on the charge. A very familiar profile that is now not that bad at killing marines. They also have a deny, which is an area that we struggle with, built into their data sheet just as a normal deny the witch test. And they have they give us access to another Scorn of Sorcery style strat, and with the added caveat, if they're within 12 inches of a Fleshhound unit, it's a 3-up rather than a 4-up, which adds a bit more reliability if people are incautious with it. Fleshhounds are also really fucking fast, so maybe it doesn't mean about.
So they do go through terrain. So
maybe even if they're not incautious, and you just like, oh, actually, I'm just going to fucking advance so I can deny you next turn or whatever. Because psychic comes before shooting, so you're not clearing me out. Like, fine. And then HQ wise, obviously Karanak went down from 100, I think, to 90, which is pretty good. Karanak buffs Flesh Hounds, gives them reroll wounds against characters, I think, if they're near him. He's also got a pretty good profile. I think he's strength 6 -2 damage, potentially. And he has 2 denies built into his data sheet. Pretty good. Something we lack is psychic defense. So adding that, if you add Karanak and 2 squads of Flesh Hounds, that's 4 denies, and then you have Rune, and you also have 2 Scorn strats, or 3 depending on how your T overrules it. So you're sorted for psychic defense if you want to go down that avenue. The other choice, which Dora will love because it's Forge World, is Uraka the War Fiend. He's been around a little bit. There's been some good meme lists around Uraka. Basically, Uraka gives reroll 1s to Khorne demon units. And
he can throw his axe at people.
And he can throw his axe at people, but the important bit is reroll 1s for Khorne demon units.
That's not the important.
Which, because the World Eaters rules state that anything that has the Chaos Undivided keyword gets the Khorne keyword, means stuff like Demon Engines suddenly gets a reroll 1s to hit. Lord of Skulls, shit like that, gets a reroll 1s to hit. Warp Talons, Possessed, all of that good stuff. Get an actual buff.
Like, it's like just when you think that GW stamped out the last weird demon
stuff.
Chaos Space Marine, like overlapping synergy, one fucking crawls its way back out. So like, if that gets popular, that's an FAQ away from not existing anymore. So
yeah,
you got Prince if it goes away.
So he had so he's a Demon Prince on foot basically. So he's 80.
Also, like he is a Demon Prince at the end of the day. Like allying demons is a really easy way of getting 2 Demon Princes on the board, which kind of slap pretty hard. So
and he went down in points as well. I think he went from 145 to 130. So he's not that expensive either.
I've used him twice, and he's decent. I mean, just as a little buffing character. He's not bad. Like, the thing is, which I learned because this is just my first couple games using demon allies, which you two may be more familiar with. Man, do they crumble to shooting?
Oh my god, they crumble to anything. A stiff freeze and they're gone.
Well, sorry, 4 up to shoot and 5 up to combat. Sorry,
but So the thing for me is, if you're leaning hard into dogs, then they're really fast. Like 12-inch move. I mean, maybe we're revisiting Raptors, and I know a lot of people are having joy with Warp Talons at the moment, but 12-inch move is something that at my list at least are lacking, and I am missing it. So dogs feel like a nice compliment, especially because
dogs are really the talking point here, and like slightly Uraka. Unfortunately, like I know people are super hype and like, oh, Juggernauts went down to this price. Juggernauts are so shit. Like they will never, until they can go through walls, they will never be good. Because GW is like really scared of these like cavalry units for some reason, and like it's like Jamie said, they crumble really fast, and Juggernauts, like you're like, oh, like it's toughness 5 with 4 wounds each. It's like, dude, that's nothing when it's like got a coin toss of a save, and you can't really use it in terrain because every time you go into terrain to like hide from something, you have to come back out around in a really awkward way. And for the same reason, like Bloodletters are terrible, not necessarily because they can't survive anything, but also because they can't kill anything. So if you charge them into a halfway decent combat unit, they'll kill like 2 or 3 guys, and then all of them will die in return. So like what we're talking about here is allying in demons for anti-psychic tech, in which case, really good. Like really good. Everything else, not good. Skull cannons, still bad. The chariot thing, bad. Pearls, bad. Like it's just not great.
Well, that leads me on. Like I said, I have played a couple games with demon allies, and I played a couple games with knights or 2 executioners, and I am really strongly coming around to using the executioners as the ally. I know we've been talking about this in our chat. We've kind of been going through like brigands. We've talked about some of the, maybe the Moirax or something. I don't know. But just because I've got 2 executioners is why I'm using them. I think I prefer for World Eaters currently 2 War Dog executioners with stubbers for points generally, because they offer something nice. They're 5 models with OBSEC, So they can sit on your home objectives, and generally, if like one lone enemy bloodletter, for instance, makes it on there, you will still hold that objective because of OBSEC and 5 models. They've got really good shooting for their points. 4d3 autocannons at minus strength 7, -2, 3 damage. Is a bit swingy with the D3. I get that. But that isn't awful, as I'll explain in a minute. And then you get a stubber, and you can upgrade them a bit. I know Jack and I have been talking about this, but currently, like Dark Forging, which is sniper stubbers at strength 6, 2 damage, seems to be the play for the free upgrade. But I think Executioners are very good because they're not overpowering amounts of shooting. So they synergize well with chipping units down. They don't kill units because we don't want to kill units in shooting as a World Eater. We want to put half the damage on a tank. We want to take out half the squad of Marines or what have you. And I just think they're really good. Darren, what are your thoughts on Knights as an ally? Any variant of Knights, but whatever.
Like it's super interesting, both currently and for future planning. Like I think they offer a lot for where we are right now in terms of the weird Limbo Arks of Omen vibe. Yeah. But it's one of those things that, like, if you get it now, it's still probably going to be pretty good when we have our own codex as well, right? Because, like you said, it provides like a very valuable sort of niche that our army doesn't necessarily cover very well now, and probably will cover even worse in the future, right? And the Executioner is exceptional. Like I fought against them a couple of times, and every time I've been like, man, these guys are a pain. Thank God I've got Armor of Contempt to save my ass, and now I don't. So it really, they're gonna bite. And like custodes hate them like so much, and anything that kills custodes has a gold star in my book, I think. But like, yeah, they're really good. I think all the like the small knights, the baby knights, are good. They all have a place. Except in World Leaders, probably not the carnivores, right? Because we just don't need that.
We don't need the combat.
I know that we
combat knights, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I very much agree. I don't think the one with the thermal spear and the chain glaive is like particularly potent either. I like Moiraxes. I think they're fun and cool, but like, you're shooting those into things that our army is kind of butchering quite easily in combat anyway. Yeah. So it's like you say, the Executioners can come in and they can kind of put holes in units that we would otherwise have a tougher time lifting, or like it's not impossible for them to dent a vehicle and things like that. So I think they're awesome. But there's a lot of big knights that are attractive as well. Like the obvious one is the big tentacle dude. The name escapes me. Abominants with Blessings of the Dark Master and all the bells and whistles on top of him. We all know it's a pain in the ass to take him down. Obviously, he's like a little bit weaker because he has to have the current keyword for us, I think, or maybe not at the minute. It's like
it's not in Arks.
It's weird.
It's a chaos. So the Battle Brothers for Knights is slightly different. It's just a chaos detachment. And then there's no provision about everything having to have Khorne.
They have to be a Dreadblade, though.
They have to be a Dreadblade, which is fine, because you can still...
That's fine. So. It's not the worst thing. So, like, that's really good, but, like, we all know what it does.
Yeah.
There's no need to do a deep dive on that here. Yeah. I think there's other really cool knights, though, like the Tyrant with the harpoon, because harpoons are cool, and they're like Ursa's claws. It's very thematic. But also, fucker can appear at a strategic reserve and just torch a unit with a conflagration cannon.
Yeah.
It's like, goodbye. Like, those things are crazy big gun platforms as well. Yeah. Like, if you want something that has a lot of shooting, bring, like, the Evil Castellan. I think it's also called a Tyrant.
It's Tyrant. Yeah, I think.
But bring him. He's got lots of guns. You know? But like, there's tons of Forgeral Knights that are awesome as well. Like, my personal favorite is the Atropos, because he's got like the Graviton Singularity Cannon, and that thing just like ruins people's days. So he's awesome, right? Because he has 2 gun arms. So he has the Graviton Cannon, and he has a las. I think it's called a las cutter, which is like.
Or something. Oh, is that?
No. This is
Lance
different.
Thing. Is it the Lance?
It's not the Lancer. It's the same chassis, but different guns. So it's got the Graviton Singularity Cannon, which is its main gun, which has like 2 or 3 firing modes. I can't remember. And then he has the las cutter, which is like a very short range multi-firing las cannon that has higher strength and better damage. But that is also, so the parts built around the las cannon is a giant blade, which has a really good combat profile. So he has a combat profile which is, off the top of my head, I can't recall, it's at least the same, if not better, than a chain blade. And he still has 2 guns, and he's quite cheap. I think he's 465. And he has more wounds than normal as well, and he's faster.
I think the Cerastus profiles have 3 damage sweeps, which
is that's one of the things. He does have 3 damage sweeps. Yeah. So like he's pretty good. you know? Like genuinely, because like you don't lose any combat. And you have 2 guns that are really good. Like the graviton cannon is exceptional because it has 2 firing profiles, so you've got your duality there as well. I just think he's like something that people don't necessarily look at because he's not commonly seen, But every time I look at him, I'm like, man, you've got so much going for you.
my thing on that, the reason I'm looking more at War Dogs, aside from the fast obsec, which is really attractive, I think, and countering is 5. But aside from the fast obsec, they're a nice middle ground of quite cheap. Like, so 310 points for 2 of them with stubbers?
Yes, I think so,
yeah. Whereas a big knight, as you say, is like a quarter of your army. And it's
an investment,
But as we've said as well, right, like we're going to be quite an elite army. Our model count isn't going to be that high. And if we're looking at how we're going to score our secondaries, incentivizing MSU, we want to spend as few points as possible on our shooting sport and get the most bang for our buck.
I agree. Yeah, I just think it's really cool having a big knight allied in. I really like it. But like thematically, talking about the thematic side of things, war dogs are really cool because they have dogs in their name, and world leaders are all about that life. And that's why flesh hands are great as well, and Karanak and all the good stuff. But yeah, I think war dog. Like if you're looking for the really dialed in, hyper competitive plays, war dog executioners is probably where it lands at for me. I think. Just being logical.
I think Jamie obviously mentioned brigands as well, which are the Gatling chain cannon and the thermal spear on the 2 eyes. So still a shooty knight, but the 2 extremes of shooting. Whereas I feel like the executioners are more middle ground. So I was for a while championing brigands because the chain cannon is 12 shots, strength 6, AP 1 damage, I think.
Yeah.
And AP 1 is now meaningful again. And then the thermal spear is obviously like strength 9, AP 4, D6 plus 2, I think.
30 inches as well.
Yeah, and 30 inches, so you can get in half range quite easily on the like smaller boards. So I was looking at that because I thought strength 9 is quite a nice point to hit at the moment, and D6 plus 2 gives the potential for, whatever it is, gives like the potential for some much higher damage spikes. But then this weekend I was speaking to one of my friends who is a very good Knights player, and he said it's 2 shots, it's very swingy, it's basically Melter on fucking steroids. Which resonated with me as someone who runs a drill and does not roll very well on the melter shots on it.
The thing is, when you have enough of those war dogs, it balances out.
But
right?
with only 2,
you bring 2. But like if you're a mono player, I've faced into that list where it's like I played someone before that had either 5 or 6 brigands, and like I get that it's swingy. But when you've got 12 shots, it stops being swingy.
But that's redundancy. That's redundancy, though, right? And we can't really afford that. So,
exactly.
I think.
So for us, that's why I think the executioner is the one.
I have come round. I am team executioner now. I think the flat 3 damage. Again, talking about like different damage profiles, we don't know how much damage 3 we're going to have in the new codex, but at the moment, at least, as part of the reason I like Abaddon so much is that we don't have much access to flat 3 damage, and having that access, especially in the form of shooting, it ticks 2 boxes for us that we don't necessarily have that much access to at the moment. And then obviously Jamie mentioned Dark Forging, which is the sniper stubbers, which into a meta which may be about to see an explosion of guard, which has squishy characters.
T3 characters.
Yeah, T3 squishy characters. Strength 6, no AP, 2 damage, with 4 shots, so from 2 of them is 8 shots, with a 40-inch range. Fucking take it.
That was the initial reason I went for the Dark Forging, was specifically because of the guard. Because I read the guard secondary where it's like score VP
for standing near officers.
So kill the officers. I mean, we're going Viet Cong on them. Kill the officers. And
you could have gone like War for Independence there, Jamie. You didn't have to go Viet Cong.
I like respect for the Viet Cong. Well, no, I shouldn't say that.
We're going all Mel Gibson on them in the Patriot. Let's
very interesting tactics from a purely objective point of view.
I mean, historically, it's always been how to do it, right? Take out the commander, or like, what is it? Cut the head off the snake. Body dies. Right? So, and it's not just guard. It's like Votan rely a lot on their characters, which aren't amazingly survivable. in the upcoming Marines, I bet we're going to see a lot of Ancients and Apothecaries who don't have invulnerable saves and things like that. And 2 damage taken out Apothecaries could be pretty big. Or in the really grim potential Iron Hands meta, you want to start shooting those Tech Marines as soon as possible. So, you know, so character support, especially in a world where we can take more characters, they're going to be more prevalent. Why not have things that can snipe them?
I think as well, what I was kind of saying earlier was like, even outside of those, what you were saying about support characters, basically, traditionally a failing of a pure melee army, or something that I found difficult to deal with as a pure melee army, is fight last. Characters that give out fight last. And now you can snipe them.
You can definitely try,
yeah.
But, I want to, because I think we're close to about an hour for this video, so I think we need to wrap up now. I hope everyone isn't too upset with this video, because it is only kind of useful for about a month or so, like we said. But you know, people are still going to be playing games, going to these weird Limbo events, having fun, playing at home, whatever. So yeah, I hope our thoughts have helped you get your head around these weird changes that we're dealing with. But yeah, gentlemen, would you like to say goodbye?
Always.
Nice.
I love goodbyes. Goodbye.
All right, Gareth says goodbye. Jack says goodbye.
Goodbye.
All right, everyone, jump in the Discord, all that stuff. If you buy new World Eaters models, check out our Element Games link.
Good plug. Good plug.
Smooth.
And everyone, stay healthy, stay safe, and kill them there.